How's it going, YouTube? I made a video earlier today about Ireland, so if you haven't seen that video, check it out. I was going through my old clothes looking for another Irish-themed shirt to wear, so I found something. Check it out. Alright, this video is about the Czech Republic presidential election. Now, a lot of countries in Europe have presidents who do not have a lot of power. Nevertheless, these countries are trying to replicate the theatrics, the hysteria, the fanfare of an American presidential election. So here's Peter, who many of you are familiar with, from the Czech Republic, now commonly called Czechia, to tell you about their recent presidential election.
Good evening, everyone. This is Peter from Czech Republic, again joining Renaissance Horizon in reporting of European politics. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for my voice. I've just recovered from influenza, but my voice is still affected and it's gonna sound quite unnatural. I'm gonna cover the recent Czech presidential elections. First and foremost, I'd like to clarify that in terms of broader political picture, this election is not a big deal, not even in Czech Republic, I would dare to say. Basically, the winner is General Petr Pavel, a retired army general who made a career in NATO. First, I would like to give you a brief summary of all the three major candidates. There were 9 of them, but 6 are not really worth mentioning, to be honest. So I will start from the least successful one, that was Danuše Nerudová, the only woman in the race. And yeah, you can believe she played the woman card very hard. She is kind of hard to cover, because she was basically elevated out of obscurity. 6 months ago, nobody knew who she was. She was sold as basically a new marketing product, like a new Marvel TV show, a product which is gonna only get you excited for the next product. Only for the NPCs to consume and consume. This woman looks and talks exactly like a slightly younger Hillary Clinton, and that's pretty much self-explanatory, I guess. She didn't say anything of value or interest to the broader public. She basically played the typical liberal ideological card, especially woman and age card. That means she was young enough not to join the Communist Party, and that's a big deal for some reason. And of course, I'm a woman. To give you a better example, there was one ridiculous moment on Twitter she made a big deal out of. She quoted an interview with General Petr Pavel, where he said something along the lines of Danuše Nerudová has a PhD in the fields of accounts and taxes, so in case I get elected, I would very much like to use her expertise on such a matter. She replied with hysterical accusations along the lines of he said I'm only good to do his accounts. This is the type of humiliation women in Czechia have to endure from men every day. But this outrage was, of course, absolutely genuine. She endorsed him the very second she got defeated in the first round. Then the other contendant, we have our good old Andrej Babiš. Actually, he's the only candidate of the 9 people can have very genuine opinion about, because he's very well known. The others are really not very well known in terms of Czech politics. Many people in the conservative or nationalistic spectrum saw him as kind of a lesser evil and the better of choice of the two. I don't really agree with that. For me, he is the same as he always was, a self-serving oligarch, very two-faced, not trustworthy. He's basically a parasite upon the nation. That's a controversial thing to say for some people, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Basically, he says one thing to the audience in Czech Republic, and that's not a bad thing what he says here. He criticizes the EU. He doesn't want to accept euro and migrants and so on. But in Brussels, he signed all of the liberal agenda, including the Green Deal and so on. So I don't expect any kind of positive outcome out of his policies. Then we have the winner, General Petr Pavel. He is right now a president-elect and a retired army general. He has a quite interesting past because in the 80s he was a very loyal communist. He was a member of course, the army, but he was a member of the espionage agency. He was trained to conduct espionage in France. But then, after the downfall of communism, he switched sides, of course, and he made quite a big career in NATO. Of course, advocated for all of the neocon policies and invasions of Afghanistan, Iraq, so on and so forth. To sum his policies up, he is basically a self-serving opportunist who is very, very loyal servant to anyone who has power over him. Of course, in terms of Ukraine, he recently made a statement. He wants to send all weapons and ammo into Ukraine, except maybe nuclear weapons. That's kind of self-explanatory, I would say. Then I would like to comment something about the presidential campaign in particular. The presidential campaign was basically cringe beyond measures. Nothing of reason was discussed, nothing of value was said. It was basically shouting, name-calling, insulting, virtue signaling, of course. There only two topics were discussed, basically. The past of each candidates. They shouted each other down over who was the bigger communist, because of course Andrej Babiš has communist past as well. And the second, not surprisingly, virtue signaling about Ukraine. Babiš wanted to de-escalate, but I don't think that's very genuine of him. And Pavel is one of the war hawks who wants to nuke Moscow and publicly crucify Putin, and you know that stuff. So, what he will be as a president like? I think he won't be a very significant figure. You can expect the continuation of current government's pro-EU, pro-NATO, virtue signaling, sycophantic policy, standard Euro-conservative opinions and statements. He will not play a major role. He will basically be a nice display, like the Slovak president, but not this time. You will not have a cougar as president, but white-haired, grey-bearded ex-general. not a big deal, to be honest, especially if you are Americans. To conclude this, unfortunately, with the downfall of not downfall, but change of powers in the Czech presidential office, the current government will have a grip of all institutions of power in this country. The government, the parliament, the Senate, presidency, of course the constitutional court, national bank, and so on. So to sum things up, Czech Republic will be fully sucked into the homogeneous mass of what is called the EU NPC crowd, if you will. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this short summary of this quite meaningless election, and that's about all. Peace out.
Alright, thanks for watching this video. Click the like button, post a comment below, tell me what you think about this, and click the subscribe button. New video every few days.